Hey everyone, so today we're going to dive into something that can really ruin your day, that P0351 engine code. We're going to break down exactly what it is, figure out how to find the problem, and get you back on the road without a headache.
All right, so let's set the scene. You're just driving, minding your own business, and then, boom, that dreaded check engine light comes on. You know that sinking feeling in your stomach, right? But here's the thing. That light isn't just bad news. It's actually the first clue in a little mystery. And today, with this P0351 code, we're going to be the detectives and solve this thing together.
So you get your hands on a code reader, plug it in, and it spits out P0351. What on earth does that mean? Well, basically, your car's brain, the powertrain control module, or PCM for short, has spotted something wrong. It's getting a weird signal, an electrical hiccup, from the circuit that goes to one of your ignition coils, specifically the one it calls ignition coil A.
And here's the cool part, the part that makes our job way easier. The code isn't just throwing a random error at you. This is our biggest clue yet. See that letter A? It's not random. A means cylinder number 1. B would be cylinder 2, C would be cylinder 3. You get the idea. So P0351 is literally your car's computer pointing and saying, hey, look right here. The problem is with the ignition system for cylinder number 1. It's telling us exactly where to start looking.
Okay, so we know where to look, but chances are your car has been trying to tell you something's wrong even before that light came on. Let's talk about the symptoms, the other clues you might have been feeling.
Think about it. If one of your engine cylinders isn't doing its job, the whole engine's rhythm gets messed up. It's like trying to run with a limp. You'll feel it, right? It'll shake or feel rough when you're at a stoplight. Then when you hit the gas, it might hesitate or just feel sluggish, like it's lost its punch. And that's because it literally has. You're down a cylinder. Naturally, that means your gas mileage is going to take a hit, and if it's bad enough, the engine might just give up and stall on you.
Okay, so we've got the location of the crime, cylinder number 1. Now it's time to do some real detective work and line up our usual suspects.
And this chart right here tells us everything we need to know. Look at that. A whopping 75% of the time, the culprit is the ignition coil itself. It's by far the most likely cause. Way down the list, you've got wiring issues, and then sometimes it's just a bad spark plug. So, like any good detective, we're going to start with our prime suspect.
So yeah, our number 1 suspect is the ignition coil for cylinder 1. And it makes sense, right? These things have a tough job. They have to generate thousands of volts to make the spark plug, well, spark. In most newer cars, they sit right on top of the engine, getting baked by all that heat. All that heating up and cooling down, day after day, can eventually just wear them out. Or, another common killer, an oil leak from the valve cover gasket can drip right onto the coil and short it out.
Now, if it turns out the coil is innocent, we move on to our other suspects. The next thing to check is the wiring and the connector that plugs into the coil. You really want to get a good look at it. Are the wires brittle or cracked? Is the connector loose? Look inside for any of those little pins being bent or pushed back, or, that nasty green crusty stuff that means corrosion. And finally, while it's less likely to throw this specific code, you can't rule out a bad spark plug in that cylinder. Maybe it's just old and worn out or fouled up with gunk.
Okay, we've got our suspects, we know the location, it's time to open up the playbook and figure out exactly who's guilty.
Here's our 4-step game plan, and it's super simple. First, just use your eyes. Do a quick visual check of the wiring, like we just talked about. Second, we're going to do our secret weapon move, the swap test. We'll get to that in a sec. If that doesn't nail it, step 3 is to pull the spark plug and take a look. And only if we're really stuck, as a last resort, do we need to start testing the circuit with a multimeter. Let's break it down.
Okay, I really want to focus on this next part because honestly, this is the magic trick. The swap test is your absolute secret weapon here. You probably don't need any special tools, it's super effective, and the best part is you use the car's own parts to tell you what's wrong. It is without a doubt the smartest and fastest way to solve this.
So here's exactly what you do. Find the ignition coil on cylinder number 1. That's our suspect. Unplug it, unbolt it, and take it out. Then, go to a different cylinder, say number 2, and do the same thing. Now you just swap them. Put the coil that was on 1 onto cylinder 2, and put the coil from 2 onto cylinder 1. That's it. Then you just clear the codes with your scanner and fire up the engine.
And this is the moment of truth. After you've let the car run for a minute, you check the codes again. There are only 2 things that can happen. 1, the trouble code moves. So instead of a P0351, you now have a P0352. If that happens, you've found your culprit. The problem followed the coil. Case closed. You need a new ignition coil. But what if the code doesn't move? What if it's still showing P0351? Well, you've just proven the coil is perfectly fine. The problem is somewhere else, which means it's time to look at that wiring or spark plug.
So, once that swap test tells us what's wrong, we've basically closed the case. All that's left is to make the repair and get back on the road.
And the final steps are super easy. First, obviously, replace the bad part, whether it's the coil or the spark plug. Second, grab that scan tool again and clear the code from the computer's memory. And finally, the best part, take it for a test drive. Make sure it's running smooth and that pesky check engine light stays off for good.
And that's the goal, right? That's the payoff. A car that's running smoothly again with all its power back. And of course, a dashboard with no warning lights. It's a great feeling. You didn't just replace a part. You figured out the puzzle. You solved the mystery yourself. So, your car is fixed, you've conquered the P0351 code, awesome. But that brings up a bigger question, doesn't it? What's the best way to keep this from happening again? Well, it all comes down to maintenance. Sticking to your car's schedule for changing spark plugs is huge, because old plugs make the coils work way harder. And hey, if you're changing one coil on a car with a lot of miles, it's often a good idea to just replace them all. It's a bit more money up front, but it can save you from doing this whole dance again in a few months. That's the real pro move, going from just fixing problems to preventing them from ever happening in the first place.